Dad said, "You're just jealous of your younger brother. He is successful and you are just a factory worker." I laughed and calmly walked away. The next morning, I woke up to 154 missed calls from them. See what happened? We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Sam Milner from Liverpool, England. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I never liked family dinners. They weren't about catching up. They were a stage for my parents to parade my younger brother Ethan like some golden trophy while I sat there, the scratched-up consolation prize. That night, though, something shifted. I didn't know it then, but it was the last time I'd let their words just roll off me. I pulled into the driveway of their house, a two-story relic they'd stretched themselves thin to keep around 6. The porch light flickered like it always did, a little detail I'd stopped mentioning years ago. Inside, Mom was fussing over a pot of spaghetti, her apron dotted with sauce, while Dad hunched over the kitchen table, muttering about the electric bill. Ethan lounged on the couch, scrolling his phone, his new leather jacket slung over the armrest like a prop. He'd been home 2 minutes and already owned the room. "Hey, Mark," he said without looking up. "Factory still grinding you down? Pays the bills." I shot back, dropping my keys on the counter. Mom glanced at me, her smile tight, then turned to Ethan. "Sweetie, tell us about that big meeting you had." And there it was. The switch flipped. Ethan straightened up, grinning like a kid who'd aced a spelling bee. "Oh, it was huge. The CEO loved my pitch. Said I'm on track for a VP spot by next quarter. Might even get a company car out of it." His voice had that polished edge, the one he'd been perfecting since he landed that tech startup job 2 years back. At 24, he was their dream come true. Me? At 28, I was just the guy who clocked in at the plant. Dad grunted, folding his arms. "That's my boy, making moves, not sitting around welding parts all day." I let it slide. I always did. Mom plated the spaghetti, and we sat down, the table creaking under the weight of unspoken rules. Ethan talks. I listen. He launched into a story about some investor dinner, name-dropping people I'd never heard of, his hands waving like he was conducting an orchestra. I forked my food, nodding when it felt right, but my mind wandered to the overtime I'd pulled that week. 12-hour shifts, sore hands, and a paycheck that didn't lie. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Then I made the mistake of opening my mouth. "Got a raise today?" I said, casual, like it was no big deal. Foreman said I've been solid on the line. Mom blinked at me, then turned to Ethan. "That's nice, honey." "Ethan, what about that bonus you mentioned?" Ethan smirked. "Yeah. About that. $5. Just for closing a deal last month. Bought this watch with it." He flashed his wrist, the silver glinting under the kitchen light. "You should see the looks I get at the office." Dad chuckled, proud as hell. I chewed my spaghetti, the taste flattening in my mouth. My raise was $2 an hour, hard-earned, but it wouldn't buy a watch. It'd keep my rent paid though, and that was enough for me. The night dragged on, Ethan's voice filling every gap. I stayed quiet, picking at my plate until Dad leaned back in his chair, eyeing me like I tracked mud on his floor. "You ever think about doing more, Mark? Ethan's out there killing it, and you're, what, still hauling steel." "Somebody's gotta make the world run," I said, keeping my tone light. It was my go-to shield, the one I'd worn since high school when they started pinning their hopes on Ethan's straight A's and my B's got shrugs. Dad snorted. "Yeah, well, you're just jealous of your younger brother. He's successful, and you're just a factory worker." The words hit like a slap, but I laughed. Not a bitter laugh, just a short, sharp one that surprised even me. It echoed in the room, cutting through Ethan's latest brag about a corner office. Mom froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Ethan raised an eyebrow like I'd finally lost it. Dad just stared, his jaw tight. I stood up, chair scraping the floor. "Yes, I am," I said, voice steady. "Night, everybody." I grabbed my keys and walked out, their silence chasing me to the door. No yelling, no apologies, just the of the TV fading as I stepped into the night. Back at my apartment, I kicked off my boots and sank onto the couch. The place was small, cluttered with tools and takeout boxes, but it was mine. No loans, no lies, just a life I built. I scrolled my phone, ignoring the buzz of a late call from Ethan. Probably wanted to gloat some more. I let it go to voicemail, figuring I'd deal with him tomorrow. Lying in bed, I replayed Dad's words. Jealous? Maybe once, when Ethan got the scholarship and I got a toolbox. But now, I had my hands, my job, my quiet. Ethan could keep his spotlight. I didn't need it. Still, that laugh stuck with me, replaying in my head like a warning I didn't yet understand. I fell asleep with the TV flickering, some late night at about car insurance droning on. The world felt normal then, steady. But by morning, those 154 missed calls would tell me it wasn't. That dinner wasn't just another jab. It was the last time they'd see me as just anything. I woke up to my phone buzzing like a chainsaw. The screen glowed in the dark. 6:47 a.m., 154 missed calls. My stomach dropped. Nobody calls that much unless someone's dead or the world's ending. I rubbed my eyes, squinting at the log. Mom? Dad? Ethan? Repeat. Voicemail stacked up like a bad debt. I hit play on the first one, Mom's voice shaking through the speaker. Mark, it's all falling apart. Ethan's lost his job in the house. Oh, God. Call me back. She was sobbing by the end, the line cutting off. Next, Dad, where the hell are you? We need you here now. Ethan's was last, quieter, clipped. Mark, it's bad. Just come over. I sat there, phone in hand, trying to piece it together. Last night, Ethan was king of the world. Dad was throwing punches at me. And now this? I yanked on yesterday's jeans, grabbed my keys, and headed out. My truck rattled to life, the engine coughing like it knew something I didn't. The drive to their house took 15 minutes, but it felt longer. My brain spun. Job loss? House trouble? What tied it all together? I pulled up to see Mom pacing the front lawn, her hair a mess, Dad's old Buick still in the driveway. Ethan leaned against the porch rail, staring at his shoes. The for sale sign stabbed into the grass hit me like a brick. That wasn't there last night, Mark. Mom rushed me as I stepped out, her hands clutching my arms. They're taking the house. The bank, they sent a letter. We're behind. And Ethan, she choked up, pointing at him like he'd set the place on fire. Slow down, I said, peeling her off me. What happened? Dad stormed out the front door, his face red, a crumpled paper in his fist. What happened? Your brother's a damn fraud. That's what? His big shot company tanked, and he's got nothing. Ethan flinched, but didn't look up. It's not my fault. The investors pulled out. Someone leaked fake numbers and fake numbers. Debt cut in, voice booming. You said you had it handled. You said you'd take care of us. I held up a hand. Somebody start from the top. Ethan, you first. He sighed, finally meeting my eyes. The startup, it's done. They fired me last night. Some whistleblower claimed we cooked the book's revenue stuff. I didn't know, I swear, but the board pinned it on me. I'm out in the house, I asked, nodding at the sign. Mom jumped in, her voice cracking. We missed payments, months worth. Ethan was supposed to help, but now she trailed off, tears spilling. Dad shoved the letter at me. I skimmed it. Mortgage company, final notice, sale pending. They've been drowning, and I hadn't seen a ripple. How long's this been going on? I asked. Long enough, Dad snapped. We figured Ethan's bonus would cover it. He kept promising. Ethan kicked the rail. I thought I'd get it. I didn't know they'd cut me loose. I stared at them, Mom trembling, Dad fuming, Ethan shrinking. Last night, they'd sat there, smug, tearing into me like I was the failure. Now they were a mess. And somehow, I was the lifeline. So what do you want from me? I said, crossing my arms. You've got a job, Dad said. Like it was obvious. You're steady. You can fix this. I laughed again, that same sharp sound from dinner. They froze just like before. Fix it? I'm just a factory worker, right? That's what you said. Dad's jaw clenched. Don't start, Mark. This isn't the time. No, it's perfect. I shot back. You've been riding Ethan's coattails, and now they're gone? You're looking at me? What am I supposed to do? Magic up a house payment? Mom grabbed my sleeve. Please, Mark. We'll lose everything. I pulled away, stepping back. You already did. The words hung there, heavy. I turned to my truck, needing air, needing out. Ethan called after me. Mark, wait. I'm sorry, okay? I stopped. Didn't turn. For what? The job or the lie? He didn't answer. I got in, slammed the door, and drove. My head was a storm of anger, guilt, something else I couldn't name. I remember the years they brushed me off. Ethan's graduation, Mom and Dad shelling out for a party while I worked doubles to buy my truck. My high school job fixing their roof, no thanks. Just Ethan's got finals. I'd been invisible. And now I was their savior? I ended up downtown, past the old tech hub where Ethan's crew used to strut. Layoff notices plastered the windows. His world was crumbling wider than just our house. My phone buzzed again. Mom, probably. I let it ring. The factory loomed ahead, my shift starting in an hour. I'd go in, punch the clock, keep my life moving. They built their castle on sand, not me. But as I parked, that voicemail from Ethan nagged at me. It's bad. How bad? I didn't know yet. Part of me wanted to leave them to sink, let them feel the weight they dumped on me for years. But another part, the part that still saw Mom's tired eyes and Dad's slumped shoulders, wouldn't let go. I gripped the steering wheel, caught between running and turning back. I didn't decide then. I just got out and walked into work, the of machines drowning out their chaos, but it wouldn't stay quiet for long. I didn't expect Ethan to find me. After that blowout at the house, I figured he'd hole up somewhere, licking his wounds, not chase me down like a kick dog. But there he was, sliding into the diner booth across from me, looking like he hadn't slept. It was late afternoon, my shift at the factory done, and I'd stopped for a burger to clear my head. The grease-stained menu was still in my hands when he sat down, his fancy jacket swapped for a wrinkled hoodie. "You didn't answer my calls," he said, voice low, eyes on the table. "Didn't feel like it," I replied, tossing the menu aside. The waitress swung by, and I ordered burger, fries, black coffee. Ethan just waved her off. He wasn't here to eat. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I messed up, Mark. Big time." "No kidding." I kept my tone flat, but my pulse ticked up. Ethan never admitted fault ever. This was new, and I wasn't sure I trusted it. He ran a hand through his hair, tugging at the ends. "You were right to laugh last night. I've been an ass. Not just to you, to Mom, Dad, everybody. I thought I had it all figured out." I leaned back, arms crossed. "What's this then? You gonna cry me a river?" He winced, but didn't snap back. "I envied you," he said. So quiet I almost missed it. "All this time, I envied you." That hit me sideways. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But his face stayed serious, pale, hollowed out. "You're full of it," I said. "You've got the job, the car, the watch. I'm the one punching a clock." "Had?" he corrected, bitter. "I had those things, and they didn't mean squat. You've got something real, steady, solid." I was running on fumes, pretending I was some hotshot. The startup was a pressure cooker, Mark. I faked half the crap I told Mom and Dad just to keep them off my back. I didn't say anything. The waitress dropped my coffee and I gripped the mug, letting the heat burn into my palms. Ethan kept going like he'd been holding it in too long. "I told them I'd cover the mortgage," he said. "After that bonus, I thought I'd keep raking it in. But the company was a house of cards, fake numbers, shady deals. I didn't cook the books, but I didn't ask questions either. When it crashed last night, they made me the fall guy. Fired me over a damn email." "So you lied?" I said, cutting through his ramble. "To them, to me, to everybody." He nodded, slow. "Yeah, and now they're screwed because of me." I took a sip of coffee, letting that sink in. Mom's tears, Dad's rage, that for sale sign. It wasn't just bad luck. It was Ethan's ego crumbling and taking them down with it. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because you're the only one who might listen," he said. "Mom's a wreck. Dad wants to kill me. You're the one who's always there, even when we treat you like garbage." I snorted. Nice timing on figuring that out. He didn't argue. We sat there. The diners hummed, filling the silence, forks clinking, some guy laughing at the counter. I thought about the years he'd strutted past me, Mom and Dad hanging on his every word. Now he was begging for my ear, and I wasn't sure I wanted to give it. I drove to the factory after, needing the noise of the line to drown him out. The place was alive, guys shouting over the clang of steel, machines roaring. Word was spreading about the tech bust downtown. Half the town was reeling. My coworker Pete clapped me on the shoulder as I clocked in for a quick overtime stint. "Good thing we're still standing. Those startup punks are toast." "Yeah," I said, managing a grin. "Solid's not so bad." The foreman caught me later, pulling me aside. "You're doing good, Mark. Supervisor spot's opening. Think about it. We need guys like you." I nodded, surprised. "I'll think it over." It wasn't a watch or a corner office, but it was something. More than that, it was mine. Earned, not handed. Driving home, Ethan's words gnawed at me. Envy from him? I'd spent years swallowing their jabs, building my life brick by brick while he soared. Now he was grounded, and I was still standing. Part of me wanted to rub it in, let him stew. But Mom's voice from that voicemail "will lose everything" kept cutting through. I passed their house on my way, the for sale sign glowing under a streetlight. My chest tightened. Back at my apartment, I paced, keys jingling in my hand. They built their mess, not me. I could walk away, let him figure it out. Dad's pride, Ethan's lies, Mom's blind faith. But I saw her clutching my arm. Dad's slumped shoulders, Ethan's hollow stare. They were family, flaws and all. And I hated that it still mattered. I stopped, staring at my toolbox by the door. Steady, solid, that's what Ethan called me. Maybe he was right. Maybe that's why they needed me now. I didn't know them, but I wasn't sure I could turn my back either. Not yet. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over Mom's number. I didn't call not then. Instead, I sat on the couch, burger wrapper crumpled beside me, and let the choice simmer. Ethan's confession had cracked something open, and I wasn't sure what came next. But I knew one thing. The next move was mine. I couldn't sleep that night. Ethan's confession rattled around in my head, mixing with Mom's pleas and Dad's barking. By morning, I'd made up my mind, not out of pity, but because I was tired of watching them flail. If I was going to step in, it'd be my way, not theirs. I showered, threw on a clean shirt, and drove back to that house with the for sale sign taunting me from the lawn. Mom opened the door before I could knock, her eyes puffy, a coffee mug trembling in her hand. "Mark, thank God. We've been calling." "I know." I cut in, stepping past her. Dad sat at the kitchen table, the mortgage letter creased in front of him, while Ethan slumped on the couch, scrolling his phone like it did save him. The air was thick with desperation, and I wasn't about to let it choke me. "Put that down," I said to Ethan sharp. He looked up, surprised, but dropped the phone. I turned to Dad. "You too. No more yelling. We're talking this out." Dad bristled, his mouth opening, but Mom shot him a look. "Greg, let him speak." That was new. Her picking me over him. He shut up, arms crossed. I laid it out fast. "I've got savings. $5 from overtime and cutting corners. My raise kicks in next month, and the factory's offering me supervisor. I can talk to the bank, see if they'll renegotiate the mortgage. But I'm not bailing you out for free." "What's that mean?" Dad asked, eyes narrowing. "It means I move in," I said. "We split the payments, me, you, Mom. Ethan gets a job, pulls his weight. No more handouts, no more promises. That's the deal." Dad laughed, short and bitter. "You're moving in, bossing us around in our own house. It's not yours if the bank takes it," I snapped back. "You've been coasting on Ethan's lies, and I'm the one with cash and a paycheck. You want to keep this place? This is how." Mom clutched her mug tighter. "Mark, we're sorry. We didn't mean to save it," I said, softer but firm. "I don't need apologies. I need you to say yes or no." Ethan piped up, his voice shaky. "I'll do it. I'll work. Whatever you need." Dad glared at him. "You? Work? You couldn't hold a job with a leash?" "Enough," I said, slamming my hand on the table. The sound cracked through the room, and they all flinched. "I'm not asking Ethan to run the world. I'm asking him to show up. And you?" I pointed at Dad. "Stop acting like you're above this. You're not." Silence hit hard. Mom nodded first slow like she was testing the water. "Okay, Mark. We'll try." Dad didn't budge, his jaw tight, but he didn't fight either. That was as good as I'd get. I grabbed my keys. "I'll call the bank. Be ready to sign whatever they send." The meeting was at noon. I walked into the branch downtown, my work boots thudding on the tile, feeling out of place among the suits. The loan officer, a guy named Harris with a clipboard and a tired smile, pulled up their file. "For months behind," he said, tapping his pen. "Sales set for next week unless you've got a miracle." "I've got $5 and a steady job," I told him, sliding my pay stubs across the desk. "Union gig, supervisor track. I'm moving in, splitting costs. Can you rework it?" He skimmed the stubs, eyebrows lifting. "Factory, rare to see stable income these days with the tech mess." He punched numbers into his computer, muttering about rates. After 10 minutes, he leaned back. "I can push the sale off, reset the terms. You cover the $5 up front, keep payments current. We're good, but it's tight, Miss One, and it's over." "I won't miss," I said, signing where he pointed. My savings were gone in a pinstroke, but the house was safe for now. Back home, my old home, I guess Ethan met me at the door. "You did it." "Yeah," I said, brushing past. "You're starting at the factory. I vouch for you. Entry level, third shift. Don't screw me over." He swallowed hard. "I won't." "Thanks, Mark." "Don't thank me yet," I said. "Prove it." Dad stayed quiet as I hauled a duffel bag into my old room upstairs. The wall still had my high school posters, Metallica, a faded Mustang ad. I unpacked, finding an old photo under the bed. Me and Ethan, maybe 10 and 6, grinning at a lake with fishing poles. I stared at it, the edges worn, wondering where those kids went. Mom knocked, peeking in. "We're grateful, Mark." "Really?" I set the photo down. "Just stick to the plan." She nodded, backing out. That cornered me later in the hall, his voice low. "I don't like this, you running things, but I'll play along." "Good," I said, meeting his stare. "Because I'm not asking." That night, I lay on the creaky twin bed, the house settling around me. Ethan was downstairs, probably dreading his first shift. Mom and Dad whispered in their room, voices tense but subdued. I'd taken the reins, and they didn't love it, but they didn't fight it either. For once, I wasn't the shadow. They were leaning on me, and it felt strange. Heavy, right? I closed my eyes, the photo flashing in my mind. We'd been a team once, me and Ethan, before the world split us into winner and loser. Maybe this was a chance to fix that, or maybe it'd blow up in my face. Either way, I'd made my move. Now it was on them to follow through. Months passed faster than I expected. By late summer, the house wasn't just a roof over our heads. It was a proving ground. I'd settled into my old room. The factory supervisor gig was mine, and the mortgage payments hit on time every time. It wasn't easy cramming 4 of us into that creaky 2-story, but we made it work, or at least we learned to. I came home one evening after a double shift, my boots heavy from the line. The kitchen smelled of Mom's meatloaf, not a masterpiece, but a step up from the takeout we'd lived on during the chaos. She started cooking again, a small sign she was clawing back some normalcy. Dad sat at the table, flipping through a hardware store flyer, quieter than he'd been in years. Ethan was out back, laughing with a neighbor over something dumb, a rare sound that didn't grate on me anymore. "Food's ready," Mom called, setting a plate in front of me as I dropped into a chair. "Long day?" "Long enough," I said, digging in. She smiled, faint but real, and I caught a glimpse of the mom I remembered from before the Ethan show took over. Ethan shuffled in his factory polo smudged with grease. Third shift had roughed him up, dark circles under his eyes, hands calloused like mine now, but he hadn't quit. I'd half expected him to bail after a week, but he stuck it out hauling steel on the graveyard crew. "Hey," he said, grabbing a plate, "Foreman said I'm off probation. Might get days soon." "Good," I replied, keeping it short. I didn't need to say more. He knew what it meant. He nodded, sitting across from me, and for once, we ate without the old tension sparking up. Deb broke the silence later, clearing his throat. "We need to talk, Mark." I set my fork down, bracing myself about. He shifted, uncomfortable. "Everything. The house, Ethan, you. I was wrong pushing him, cutting you down. I thought he'd be the one to pull us up, but it was you." I stared at him, waiting for the catch. Dad didn't do apologies. He barked orders or grumbled complaints, but his eyes stayed on mine. Steady, no bluff. "Took you long enough," I said, not letting him off easy. He smirked. "Just a flicker." "Yeah, well, I'm stubborn. You got that from me." Mom jumped in, her voice soft. "We both messed up, Mark. I kept comparing you two, thinking Ethan Shine meant more." "I'm sorry." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "I don't need sorry. I needed you to see me." "We do," she said, quick. "You saved us." I didn't argue. They weren't wrong. I pulled the house out of the fire, turned Ethan's free fall into a soft landing, but it wasn't about saving them anymore. It was about proving I wasn't just anything. Ethan spoke up, wiping his hands on a napkin. "I meant what I said at the diner. You're the solid one. I was chasing something I didn't even want, and you had it all along. Thanks for giving me a shot." "Don't get mushy," I said, but I smirked back. "You're still a pain in my ass." He laughed, and it felt lighter than it had in years. We finished dinner, the clink of plates filling the room, and I realized something. This was us, stripped down, no more illusions. Messy, flawed, but real. The town had shifted too. The tech bus left empty offices downtown, but the factory hummed stronger than ever. Guys like Pete started calling us the backbone, not the leftovers. My supervisor role came with a bigger paycheck, enough to keep the house afloat and stash a little aside. Ethan's old startup buddies were scrambling for jobs. He dodged that bullet, thanks to me. Later, I stepped onto the porch, a beer in hand. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the yard. Ethan wandered out, leaning on the rail beside me. "You ever think we'd end up here?" he asked. "Nope," I said, taking a sip. "Thought you'd be some CEO, and I'd be the grunt forever." He chuckled. "Guess we flipped the script." "Guess we did." I glanced at him. Still my little brother, but not the kid who'd outshone me. We found a balance, him grinding at the factory, me steering the ship at home. Inside, Mom and Dad's voices drifted out, arguing over a TV show, normal stuff. I let it wash over me, the sound of a family that had bent but hadn't broken. I dragged us through the mess, not because I had to, but because I could. They leaned on me now, and I didn't mind the weight. Ethan nudged me. "You're good at this, holding it together." "Somebody's gotta be," I said, staring out at the street. A neighbor waved, and Ethan waved back, grinning like an idiot. I shook my head, but I was smiling too. The beer was cold, the night calm. I wasn't just a factory worker anymore.